She has been with us before, but not all of you have had the opportunity to hear her present. The Magdalene project is special to us, and Jodie is a special person doing special work. So we're glad to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. I have to admit, I'm not a morning person, or I'd probably join the Optimist because I love everything, especially your creed. But I had a pep in my step this morning knowing I was coming here. So
Jodie, we have members who join but never come to meet.
I couldn't do that. I'd have to.
And it's online, so you can watch the meeting.
Yeah, it's online now.
That's true.
Yes.
Well, the real problem, I was told my parents are visiting from, I grew up south of Abilene, but my parents sold our farm in 2008 and they moved to an island in Alaska. So they're visiting right now. So we had dinner last night. And I was telling that the real issue is I feel like there's probably more men in the Optimist because you can just shower and go. And so, I got to get up at 4:30 to do the hair and do all the things. That's the real issue. So thanks for having me. Yes, I have been here before, and we were so grateful. Last year, you guys blessed us with $300, and we were able to use that to supply one of our meals. So I'm going to do a real brief overview. You've had time to kind of look through this. And then I thought, especially because it's when I'm in smaller groups, it's nice to have maybe a little bit more of a conversation versus me talking at you. So the Magdalene Project has been going for 3 years. So a little background. As I mentioned, I grew up on a farm south of Abilene. The way our district is, I went to Chapman for middle school and high school. I went to a little country grade school out there on 15, Rural Center, which if you haven't been out there, it's literally a school in the middle of a pasture. It was wonderful. And then went to K-State and got a degree in education. So I was a high school agriculture teacher, FFA advisor, and did that for a few years. And then went to Wichita and started working in the corporate world and got into, we call it organizational development, but it's essentially strategy, strategic planning, leadership training. I talk for a living. It's very surprising, I know. So that's kind of what I got into. And then in 2013, a friend that I grew up with, they farmed down the road from us, and he was in my sister's class, so 2 years younger. And when we were little, he had a crush on me, and so I just had a heart for Russell. He was an Army medic, so I'll age myself. I graduated in 98, so he graduated in 2000. And so, at that time, a lot of folks, particularly after 9/11, joined. So, of course, he saw Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa, Germany. And at one point, he was in his armored vehicle, and they hit an IED, and he tried to save everybody in there, and it was a pretty bad incident. And so only he and one other guy came out, and that and being trapped in the IED made him very claustrophobic. So when he did get out of the military, he tried to get help, mental health care, but he had really struggled being in a small room for counseling, amongst other things. And so he was out about a year and was going to Washburn Law and decided he couldn't take it anymore and ended his life. And that was pretty new to me. All that experience. And so I came up for the funeral and started talking to our mutual friends, many who were in the military, and they explained some of the shortcomings for guys and gals who were struggling. And so we talked about how Russ loved adrenaline. That kid always had a broken arm when we were kids or bruises because he was jumping off of hay bales and riding his dirt bike and riding horses through the pasture and getting bucked off. And so the idea of the veteran outdoor therapy was still pretty new. So I started thinking, what could I have done to help Russ? And this idea of creating Warriors Ranch came to be. So I got the opportunity to come back up to this area out of Manhattan and run the Kansas FFA Foundation, Little Future Farmers, and then start Warriors Ranch. So in 2016, we started Warriors Ranch, Inc. And I tell you all that because the Magdalene Project is a program under Warriors Ranch, Inc. So that's our federal ID number. Mm-hmm. And so we did equine therapy, outdoor therapy, and then horticulture therapy for veterans. And then we eventually brought on teens who had attempted suicide or had suicidal ideation. And so we did that through COVID. A little bit after COVID, some of our funding dried up. COVID, a lot of foundations kind of switched what they were doing as far as giving. And then I sold the last horse just about a year ago. So 3 years ago, I was here in Junction City. Until about 4 months ago, I lived out by Manhattan in the country. Was here in town, and I noticed one of our veterans that had been going through our equine program was at Heritage Park, and he looked rough. So I stopped to talk to Stanley, and he'd become homeless. So that isolation during COVID had been too much, and it caused him to start using again. And a couple weeks later, I met another homeless gentleman. That got me kind of digging into what homelessness looks like in Geary County. And I worked a lot with the homeless down in Wichita when I was down there, and saw there was a big need here, and particularly with children. Which very much surprised me. And I know you've had Wendy Hancock from McKinney-Vento speak about it, and there's others that are kind of ancillary working on this. So 3 years ago, we started the Magdalene Project, as I mentioned, as a program, and it started off very organic, just street outreach. So some of you, if you ever go by a Heritage Park, or more, for years, he was always around McDonald's, you'll meet Charlie, the little guy, the beard, brown coat. So I started working with Charlie, and then just started meeting other people. And so this street outreach started. So just going out onto the streets and talking to folks who were struggling, say, what can I help you with? Do you need a job? Do you know how to navigate the system? Do you need help filling out housing applications? My premise, and now the premise of the Magdalene Project of my board, is very much that we don't give handouts. Like the farm girl, I know there's dignity in work. You're going to feel better as a human being when you feel like you're being productive in society. And we want you to be the best version of yourself, and that happens when you're healed and you're whole and you're producing something, whether it's raising a family or working in a traditional job. So so we just started tackling that, and then it's grown. So as you can see here, there's a lot that we do. It's very broad. So you still see that street outreach is kind of our mobile outreach. A lot of case management. So case management's a funny term and it means something different to everybody. But for us, we walk with our clients. So a great example, yesterday, I met two ladies that one just became homeless, the other's on the verge, and both need jobs. And one has worked for, which just amazes me, 28 years as a limo driver in Las Vegas. And the company she worked for, the gentleman passed, so it shut down. She didn't know what to do. I think there was probably some depression and other issues, and she ended up losing her housing. Her sister lives here. She moved out here, lived with her sister. They got in an argument. Sister kicked her out. Now she's on the streets. Her whole life she's worked, and she's worked a pretty good job, good tips, and now she doesn't know what to do. So she came in, and so we sat down, and when you start working with us in a capacity as far as intake, so not just having to hand you some food and a blanket, but we actually are going to work on getting your life back on track. The first thing we do is we set goals. So we say, okay, where do you want to be in 6 months that you're not now? And that could simply be, I want to be clean and sober. It could be, I want to talk to my kid again. It could be, I want to have a house. And so have housing. So we sat down and we set her goals. And obviously one of them for her was a job and housing. And then she was able to say, she had a little money, when I say little, about 500 saved up. And so we did a budget. Okay, what can we do to really stretch this 500 until we get you working again? And then we started calling people. So I called Buyer Construction, and everybody over there, Stan, was like, so she has a CDL, right? That's pretty rare. So they said, absolutely, let's interview her. I thought, Adabus is always hiring people. So we called over to Adabus, and they were so excited. She has the CDL with the passenger certification. And so they interviewed her on the phone and got her a job. So, she came in, now she's got a job, and we were able to get her into give her the option, if she takes it, for a week in some long-term housing, that she can choose to stay there longer. So she's on the road. So that's really what we do, is we really try to walk with people and get them back on their feet. So that's our case management kind of side of things. I would say the cornerstones of what we do are the street outreach. So going out, finding folks, loving on. Here in Junction City, homelessness looks different than even it does in Manhattan. So here we have a huge chunk of our town is what we call the working poor. So they are just struggling. And some of that's because we don't have a lot of good paying jobs in town. So if you're working $14 an hour and you've got 3 kids, that's just pretty darn near impossible to make ends meet. So those are folks that they want to do better, but the opportunities aren't here. So we really try to help set them up with better paying jobs or classes or a better resume or whatever we can do to kind of help move them on. And of course, that budgeting component of things. So getting our family set up. So then the cornerstone, that case management, that street outreach, and then we have big events that we just kind of fill in. So every Sunday we do a free meal for the community. We're getting more and more kids at that, more families. I anticipate, particularly November on, as SNAP is shut down, that we're going to see a lot more families with kiddos at our meals. I love it. I love the kids running around. It's just beautiful to hear them laughing. And we really, the dignity of person is really important to us. So at our meals, you're always going to find table runners and fresh flower centerpieces. And if I didn't love my dishwasher so much, we would have real china and real silverware, but that's a lot for them to wash. So we just try to make sure it's a really dignified setting for them. Our meals are very focused on being healthy and balanced. So every meal has your meat dish, your main dish, homemade, make everything from scratch. Well, okay. I'm Catholic, so I can't even try to start to tell a lie, then I have to go back to confession. So I will admit that this week our German chocolate cake was from a box. But typically, we really try to cook from scratch. So let's say we have like lasagna, and then we always have that main, and then we always have a fresh fruit, a fresh vegetable, a leafy salad, which the kids love, which just surprises me. I hated salad when I was a kid. And then we have the dessert, and sometimes we'll throw bread in there. So that's important. We have clients, particularly elderly clients, who will tell us Rep told us, this is the only meal during the week where I get fresh fruits and vegetables. So we're really, really big on making sure we have fresh fruits and vegetables at those meals. And we're really big on the diversity of our, as far as what we offer, so that kids can try new things, right? Like a lot of kids, I didn't have a mango until I was in college. I just not something to eat as a farm girl. So we really try to kind of broaden their horizons on what's out there. And then I like to hide vegetables in food too. So, the spaghetti sauce probably has some little veggies, squash in there and stuff that the kids don't know. So we also do quarterly free vet clinics with K-State. So K-State Vet Med brings their mobile unit over, and that way those folks that are struggling to make ends meet, but they have the pets, whether we think they should or shouldn't, that those pets are getting taken care of. We do all of our holidays up really big. You think about a homeless person, or even somebody that's just struggling, very much struggling financially, they don't go home to Christmas tree every night like we do, or they don't go home to a decorated house. So that one Sunday that they hang out with us, or 2 Sundays around Christmas, that's the only time they really get to see those Christmas decorations. So that's important to us. We do hydration stations. So in the summer, we partner with Liverpool, Geary County, and you probably noticed there were 8 coolers around town. So those coolers would keep full of ice water for folks that are homeless, or sometimes we just see people that are working that come by and grab some. We do the warming shelter for the county. So we're very blessed. St. X and Knights of Columbus is a wonderful partner in our work. And so the Knights use the hall. So during the winter, we're the county warming shelter as well, which is life-saving for a lot of people. And then we do little things. Ditch the Digital is something we do in the summer that tries to keep kids off of their digital devices. So we'll take them to the ballpark. We'll take them to the water park in Manhattan. What else we done? We've gotten tickets to the rodeo at the county fair, wristbands for Freedom Fest. And so there's anything to try to get them off their screens and out enjoying nature. And then we do an annual health fair. So that's once a year. It's a free health fair, very similar to Everybody Counts in Manhattan, where you can come and get free haircuts, get all of your physical health stuff kind of looked at. We have mental health screenings, and we've had the vet clinic there. We have meals. And then we also have around 20 usually resource booths. So if organizations like Red Cross or DECA, which is out of Lawrence, they deal with opioid use, they come and can kind of talk to people about the resources. So that's a broad snapshot of what we do. The majority of it really is, like I said, loving on folks and making them feel known and seen, and reminding them that there's a better life, and we can help you get onto a better life if you want. So I think you got 2 other flyers. These are 2 newer programs that we started this summer. So we relaunched our veteran outdoor therapy. So as I mentioned, that kind of the adventure therapy side stopped about 3 years ago, the equine therapy about a year ago. We're not doing, horses eat a lot. They eat a lot. Horses are expensive. So we're not redoing the equine therapy. We've pushed everybody that wanted to a partner organization south of town, but we did relaunch the outdoor adventure therapy. So that's hiking, boating, canoeing, camping, fishing, and then this year we're adding hunting. So we're really blessed. We have a retired colonel here in town, a couple other leaders that are retired that are kind of helping me relaunch that. So you have a flyer for that. So we're starting small, it's a lot different. The first time we did the veteran outdoor therapy Warriors Ranch, we just took, it was everybody, and it was big, and this time we're really more targeted, so it's smaller cohort groups, so they can really get to know each other. And so when they're done with the program, now they have these battle buddies that they can talk to if they're struggling. They've really created friendships with. And then the other program we relaunched is our second harvest food recovery. So food recovery is kind of a funky name, but essentially think about all the food that we throw away, every day, restaurants, catered events, galas, you name it. And so this food recovery program allows us to capture this food and then repackage it and get it to those that are hungry, and not just on the streets, but we have lots and lots of folks, like I said, that working poor or elderly that Social Security is barely making it, that are in housing and they're just struggling. And so we can take this food and get it out to them so it's not thrown away. We also, my favorite part is we partner with some of the farmers market vendors, farmers in town, and get their ugly produce. So the stuff that's too ugly to sell, but it's still perfectly good. And so we'll take that ugly produce and we'll either give it to people that can use it, or we'll use it for our meals. So those are 2 programs, and we are having our first ever fundraising gala. So this is our Gala of Hope. I'm pretty pumped about this. It is, I've always wanted to do a Roaring Twenties Great Gatsby party. So this is our Roaring Twenties Great Gatsby themed gala. Love to have you guys there. It's not going to be a high pressure fundraising ask. We're not going to say get your checkbooks out and all that. The way that we're fundraising is the ticket price, and then we'll have a silent auction, and then we'll have a wine or whiskey pool. So if you haven't been to either of those or been to an event with those, it's essentially like a table with maybe 30 bottles of whiskey and a table with 30 bottles of wine, and you can go up. The whiskey, Calvin at Frontier Spirits has donated graciously 3 bottles that are in that 150 to 200 range, whiskey, 1 bourbon, 2 whiskeys. So you might have some really high end, and then you'll have, your $30, $40 bottles, and on the bottom of each of them is a number taped. And so you come and say, okay, Jody, I'd like to buy 2 tickets, 1 for number 3 and 1 for number 11. And then you don't know which bottle you're getting. So we'll have the wine and whiskey pool there. We're going to have live music. We have Dr. Gones. I do not say it correctly. Wayne. He's the huh?
Yes, good.
Gones? Okay.
Great.
He's the chair of the jazz department for K-State. And so he's bringing in a little jazz, big band, swing group that's going to play. So we'll have live music, dancing, good food, good time. And the decor is over the top, which is kind of my baby. But you're going to be transported back to the Roaring Twenties. We've got ostrich feathers from a farm in Florida. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. So it's going to be amazing. So yeah, we'd love to have you if you want to do that. Tickets are $45, very reasonable for the meal particularly, and then they go up to $50 November 5th. Like that. So it's early in the morning. That was a lot of information. Now, what questions do you have? I feel lately I've noticed, I've been talking to the commission a lot, city commission, that there's lots of questions about what homelessness looks like in town. What are the factors that are causing the increase in homelessness? It is increasing dramatically. And then what's the difference between us and Fresh Start? I get asked that a lot too. So, do you have any questions?
Those questions.
Yeah. You said there's an increase in homelessness. How big of an increase are you seeing?
I would say, so 2 years ago, the police department asked me to kind of put together a number of how many people I interacted with that are homeless. And it was around 42. And that is, so when you talk to the school, like when Wendy, the number is, it's hard to track. Let's give foundational here. First off, like the school district, most people, homeless shelters, they use the HUD definition. So the HUD definition of homeless is homeless, right? You're on the streets, you're in your car, you're in a shelter, which our shelter's closed for overnight, so those demographics don't pertain to us right now. Or HUD also considers if you're couch surfing. So if, like this lady I said it's about to become homeless that we worked with yesterday, the one that is and one that's about to become. The one that's about to become, she technically under HUD is homeless. She's been staying with friends. And they've said, okay, your time's up here. So that's couch surfing. So that's that definition. That number is higher. The school district will tell you 89 for this year. Last year, I think it was 189, 224 the year before that. Some of that was Wendy was out sick when they did the count, she was out long term. So it might have been lower numbers. What I could consider the couch surfing always homeless for my solid numbers. So I would say we were at 42 a couple years ago. It dipped back down, and now I'm taking a guess. I would say 60 to 70. And there's probably more. So here in town, no, if I count the hotels, yeah, we're up higher in over 100. So here in town, most of our homeless we have a few in cars, very few. We have more on the streets than you would realize, bless you. It's really pretty sad. We have 4 right now that are living outside of Fresh Start on the grounds. And then we have a lot of encampments. So they're well hidden in town. So there's some behind the Sonesta, the old Marriott, and there's trees. So there's folks that always live back there. It's been going on for a long time. There's some along the river, kind of behind. There's some behind Arby's, Cracker Barrel, down in that area. There's some off of Trooper Gate back to the west. In there. There were a bunch of folks living behind the Dollar General on Grant, and the police came and cleaned that out about 2 months ago. And then we have a group that every so often they get ran out, but they come back that are where the old train depot was. So that's if you take Franklin almost to Grant, there's that kind of bar that's cockeyed, and there's a I should have a better point of reference there. Before that, there's tracks that have been kind of pulled up, and you can see a gate. You can almost see where people have driven around it. If you go back in there, there's the old original train depot. And so there's a group down there. And, and we have, we had a homeless guy last winter he was working at Smithfield, and so he was camping out some trees kind of somewhere back around Smithfield. So it's just kind of everywhere. We have some folks on Rucker Road. There's those trees before Dollar General. If you take 8th and Rucker, and there's that Dollar General back in there. So people are just kind of everywhere. But we are seeing an increase. I think one, we're on interstate and folks are just kind of moving. Now it's going to slow down a little bit here in the winter. Manhattan city government is really asking all of their shelter, Manhattan Mercy Shelter, Be Able, which is very similar to us. The BOI is a building. So they, where we're mobile, they're asking all of their kind of folks that really deal with the homeless to try to help them, because there are so many in Manhattan. It's becoming an issue for everybody, but like K-State, where parents are saying, well, I don't know how I feel when I go over the viaduct and I see all these tents and folks, and the Blue Earth Plaza right there in front of the Hilton, that area has become a hangout, and people are leaving things and drug paraphernalia and stuff. And so they're kind of naturally trying to push people out, so then they find their way here. So that's increased it too. But I would say the two big I'm seeing in the increase are the lack of affordable, accessible mental health resources, and then the codependency. So when you can't get the mental health help you need, oftentimes people will self-medicate with drugs or alcohol, and that causes issues. You can't stay able and have a job if you're really struggling with that. So those are two big issues. And then just basic math, that the rent's very expensive in this town, very, very expensive in this town. It's pretty much on par with Manhattan now, but there's not the good paying jobs, and so they just can't make ends meet, and you get behind, and you lose your house. And then once you lose your home, once you get evicted, almost every rental company in town, private landlords are a little better, but almost every rental company will not rent you if you have an eviction on your record the last 7 years. So if you get behind rent, you get evicted, then it's really, really hard to get back into housing. So,
Jodie, on this second harvest, at my church, I'm in charge. I'm in charge of our benevolent source and stuff like that. And unfortunately, I have the devious task sometimes when people want to come to, especially asking for money and stuff like that, and I have to tap dance around on that sometimes because we don't have a whole lot of money at our church, but food wise, I can always do that. So if we have, and especially in the next 3 weeks, especially when the snap's going to be gone and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure that we're going to have some people coming, asking for food and stuff like that. The only thing we have is a bunch of box food and stuff like that. But as far as the meal and stuff, I can recommend them to go to you all for like Sunday or what? Or
absolutely, yeah, they can come. Our meals are every Sunday at 1 at the Knights of Columbus Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and then they also can reach out. So we don't have a webpage; we use Facebook. And I'll give you, if you need it, if you like it, I have business cards. I don't give my number out a ton because then I get calls, middle of the night and stuff. But if they want to reach out on Facebook Messenger and just say, hey, I'm struggling to find food and so referred me to you, then we always have food packaged up that I use during the weeks for street outreach. So like from the second harvest or leftovers from our Sunday meal, or so we can get them some meals too.
Give them some meals, so if we have, so we have that, and especially some that don't have transportation or something like that, can I come down and get it or what? Okay.
It's a little harder. We don't have, it's harder for us if they don't have transportation. There's a huge need in town for delivery services for meals, but it's not something we're able to do. So yeah, if you can come get it, absolutely. Absolutely. We'd love to do that.
Jodie, there are hot meals available throughout the community during the week. I can't remember the rotation. Episcopal Church has one, and maybe Methodist or some others have, so that they can get a hot meal other than just on Sunday. Do you know that rotation?
Yeah, so we do the Sundays at 1. Will Geary County does it at Monday. That's at the Larry Dixon Center. I believe at 5:30. 5. No, they're at 5. I'm sorry. They're 5 to 6. So our meal's unique in that it's dine-in only. So we really want to build community and help with that mental health and loneliness aspect of things. So if they come to our meal, we eat at 1, we do seconds, and then if there's food left over, they can take it to go. The other 2 meals you can just take to goes. So Monday, Will Geary County, it started as a senior meal, but now it's open to everybody. It's at 5, and then Tuesday's the Episcopal Church at 4th and Adams, and it's at 5:30.
Also to go take
Oh,
out.
yeah, both of them you can either eat there or to go.
Okay.
And then the Methodists, they stopped about a year ago. And then Breaking Bread was on Fridays, and they stopped about 2 years ago.
So it's just Monday, Tuesday, Sunday.
Right now. Yep. So what other questions do you have? And I promise I have some positive stories to end on too. It's not very optimistic.
So what is housing like for homeless? I mean, do we have any type of housing here for homeless?
We don't.
No.
Nothing. No, it's a struggle. And what you'll find is unfortunately the churches and us and other organizations have really stopped putting people in hotels because about a year and a half ago, I know it was just a string of things where Flint Hills Church, JC Naz, us, myself, we all got stuck with anywhere from 800, I think was the biggest bills when hotel rooms were destroyed. So when you pay for the room for somebody, then you're liable for the damages. And so we all just kind of stopped doing that.
We had to stop up that too, because, they come to me, and then I had direct contact with one of our, our motel and, hotel people, but then after a while, it just got, that, they want to stay longer, you had to eventually kick them out and stuff like that, and I have to tell people, we can only pay for 1 or 2 nights stay. I mean, you can't stay there forever. So
what do they do when it's below 0?
Well, we have our warming shelter. That's why we opened it, the warming shelter, because there wasn't anything.
Is that 24 hours?
It is. It's not open. In Manhattan, they have one that's open from October 30th to March 15th, I think, the whole time. And that's all that organization does for the year. For us, that just the funding and the resources were not subject to, that would be the ideal. So we would have that long-term warming shelter for us. Anytime it gets to basically freezing or below for more than 1 day, then we try to open. So like I noticed tonight, it's supposed to be 34, I think. That's getting pretty close. So then the kind of workaround for me and the other few that help with street outreach, we don't have a ton to help with street outreach because it's very specific calling to do that. So then like today, I'll go home and change clothes into something more jeans and something more rugged, and we'll go out and we'll make sure they have sleeping bags and hand warmers and the Mylar blankets, and we got a little pot chicken noodle soup ready that we'll warm up tonight for dinner for them, so that they at least can kind of stay warm. But it's not ideal. It's rough. The hope is Fresh Start will be able to open. I know they were kind of looking at November, and then now I think maybe they're looking into early 26. But that's not a solution that's going to fix everything, because it's a high barrier shelter, which it needs to be. That's same as the Manhattan shelter, and we're low barrier. So high barrier means it's harder to get in, because the Fresh Start is mixed. You've got women, children, men all in one. you really have to screen who's in there. You have to have pretty strict rules. And so a lot of people don't qualify, whether they have their criminal background, whether they're actively using, or, really struggle, can't stay sober, or just when there's a lot of mental health, sometimes the chaos of having kids running around, everything is too much. So I think as a community, we need to look at what solutions we have, but we also have to look at the root cause. What's the root cause here? Why do we have people struggling, and what can we do to help them out of that?
Where would that be located?
Fresh Start?
Yeah.
It's the old convent from St. X. So where St. Xavier's is on 3rd, just back and over on the northwest corner of the street.
Is that the warming shelter?
No, the warming shelter we do at the Knights Hall.
And do you
They,
have to be
they
present?
did. Last year I went to North Dakota for a couple of days, and Fresh Start held it for me while I was in North Dakota.
Do you have to be present?
Me, myself?
Yeah.
No, I have volunteers. I am there almost every shift, but I do go shower every couple of days.
So you're there from when to when?
Well, so whenever we open it, so like, let's say this year we need to open it in November. It's really by chunks, like I said. So last year, I think we were open about 3.5 weeks total. So in January, when it got bitterly cold, we were open for, I think 10 days the first time, and then it warmed back up into the upper 30s, and then when it dips back down, then we just reopen
What are the hours?
24/7 once we're open.
So that's the old open door where they used to do it.
Fresh Start's the old open door, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what they're trying to open up as a homeless shelter. We do ours at the Knights of Columbus Hall, the warming shelter.
Now, I'm sorry.
No, you can ask anyway.
Now, does that have to go, go through the police department first to be, to scan those people?
Yeah, they don't have to go through the police department, but the police will bring a couple people over. I shouldn't shoot all night. The police will bring some people to us. The hospital typically calls. People show up there with exposure issues, and so the hospital will call, and we'll go pick them up and bring them down. And then a lot of people just know they show up, or it's always in the paper and stuff. So when they show up, we do a quick, I make sure they're on the sex offender registry, and then I'll call the police and just make sure there's no active warrant.
Yeah, because,
Or that they're not, the police can't tell me their obviously tell me somebody's background, but they know us well enough that they can say, Jodie, this person it's probably not safe for them to be there with you. So, but otherwise we're you could come in, as long as you're not disorderly, you can come in drunk, and we'll put you in the corner in a cot and let you sleep it off, or you can, you can come in with mental health issues, and as long as you're not causing issues with everybody else, we want you to be safe.
Just out of curiosity, with your homeless that you work with, how many would you say are drug dependent? And my curiosity is drug dependency what helped lead them to homelessness, or did they fall into drug dependency after they became homeless?
That's a good question. My answer might surprise you. You would think it would be really high, and I would say it's 50%, maybe 45, 50. I'm impressed. I'm seeing more homeless that are sober, which is kind of surprising. It's mental health, a lot of bipolar and schizophrenia that's undiagnosed or untreated. On the drug side, yes, it's pretty hard to have stable income when you're using heavily, and it depends on what drug it is. Some of them, like the opioids and stuff, people, some of those drugs, they work harder, it's an upper, right? So they're just going. But anytime you get into the meth, the fentanyl, the heroin, then it's really hard to function. So, and some people absolutely, when they become homeless, they start using. It's you just kind of put yourself in those shoes and think about what it's like to, especially this girl from Vegas, right? Like you've been driving VIPs for your whole life in these limos, and now you're here sleeping on the streets in Junction City, and it's cold out, and you're dirty. And like she told me, she's like, I'm so sorry I smell. Like that's just so depressing. And you try to escape that, and alcohol and drugs are an escape mechanism.
I was trying to figure, if drugs were fueling the homelessness, or if homelessness was fueling the drugs. And if homelessness is fueling the drugs, I mean, it's more of it might be more eye-opening to the community, beneficial to the community to get involved in.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, and that kind of is leads, okay, so yes on both. It can be fueling and it can be the other. And I think overall, if you ask me what's fueling the drug epidemic in our country, I would say mental health and a lack of familiar connections and stable family and loneliness, essentially, loneliness and trauma. So I've never met anybody who, in my experience, I was alcohol, I would say alcohol dependent for quite a few years. I had a bad breakup and I did not handle that well. Um, I haven't met anybody who I just decided to start using drugs one day and became an addict. Like almost, especially women, almost all of them have some trauma, whether it was childhood trauma, rape, molestation, all it goes on and on and on. And so they just haven't went through the counseling and stuff to heal that hole. And so they're just trying to numb it and then it becomes an addiction.
Are there special considerations made for the homelessness that have children?
In what way?
Well, I mean, if I'm homeless and I have kids, can't you do more do something for the kids?
So as far as my organization, we definitely, so we have, like I said, pretty strict rule about hotels. I will break that for I'll break that rule rarely if there's kids involved and you don't have a history of tearing up and you're not using, like the parents aren't using. That's usually when the hotels get torn up. Or if they're a veteran. So those are kind of I don't think any veteran should be on the street. So in general though, no. Riley County, the Manhattan shelter inundated, particularly with Geary County. They told me the other day that almost half of their people requesting assistance to go into the Manhattan Emergency Shelter is from Geary County. So it makes sense why, Riley County commissioners and stuff are saying, Junction City needs to figure it out and start taking care of their own people. So it used to be I could send families over there, but they have limited family rooms over there.
Don't you think that's driven by the fact that if you're a low income family or something, the only place you're going to get a job is fast food or something, and they're going over there. They're not going over there to be homeless. They're going over there to try to find a job.
And there's more resources. So there's more agencies like mine over there, and there's more money. Those agencies have more money.
And a lot more low income housing.
Yeah, more. Yeah, and that's a real issue. I feel a little responsible because I started talking 3 years ago to Alan Dinkle, our city folks, saying, have you guys seen all these dilapidated houses and trailers, these trailer parks that they're squatting in? And so we went around and we looked at them and they didn't know. They were, why would you drive up there? And so they started tearing them down, but we're not building anything there. So real quick positive stories. I can get very long-winded. 2 positive stories. We had a family that their kids that you guys played a role in. When that meal that you sponsored, it often happens, we get a week or 2 out and I'm like, Lord, how are we going to take care of this coming meal? And somebody always provides, and then you guys provided, there you were. And we had a family that showed up that we hadn't worked with before, but they'd heard about the meal, and it's a big open door for us. So they, as far as people coming in and working with us. So they started working with us. It was a mom who had fled a domestic violence situation, which we get a lot of those. She had 2 little kids, and she came to the meal and just was awed that we had this big spread of food. But you could tell she was kind of hesitant to ask for help. And then she came back the next week and we started talking, and she's now, after 7-8 months of working together, they just got into housing. So they were homeless. They were living at the Budget Host Hotel. So they are in housing. The kids are thriving. They're in the new school. They are in Manhattan. That's where we ended up placing them for a couple of reasons. We felt like it was safer. So they're in Manhattan. They're in housing. She's got a job as a receptionist. She's loving it. She's talking about going back to school. She'd like to go into nursing. And like I said, the kids are doing really well doing counseling. So that's, we always love those stories. We have another gentleman who I met about 3 months ago. He showed up at St. X actually, and he has a degree from KU. He has a degree from KU in geology.
Right.
I know.
That's good.
His degree in geology, and was working 16 years in Manhattan as a environmental geologist. Owned a house, had a boat, 2 cars. Normal life, was in a long-term relationship, 13 years. They broke up. He was 40. And so he had underlying, this is very, very common when we talk about what are the root causes here. He had underlying bipolar, didn't know it. never. It's kind of rare. Usually in men it shows up by 34, but it had it for him. The breakup was the trigger that brought this bipolar out. And his bipolar is what we call, it's bipolar 1 rapid cycling. So you can talk to him how he's very intelligent and have this great conversation. And like that, he's manic. He's off in his own world. Sometimes there was one day he was we were talking, and the next thing I know, he's like in the corner crying, like holding himself. Like just, it's so sad. So he lost his job. So bipolar, you got the manic, the really like hyper, like or in his case upset, and then the other pole is very, very depressed. And so he couldn't get out of bed. So he lost his professional job. Of course, what happens when you lose your job? Eventually he lost his house, lost everything, bankruptcy. So about 2 years, November will be 2 years since the bipolar showed itself. He was just completely, totally, destroyed, and that made it worse. So he's a great case of working together. We're working with Be Able, with Pawnee, and we now have him on medication and stabilized. He started self-medicating at some point there with drugs, because again, being homeless was just too much for him. And so he started using, and so we've got him sober now and on medication and going to counseling and in transitional housing in Manhattan. So two cases of good stories and good turnarounds that we like to see. All right.
Jodie, thank you for your work.
Yes, thank you for.
We have things to give to you.
Yes. We have some gift cards for them, 25 apiece from Walmart, and then our check for 200. Did you want to take a picture now? Or?
Yeah, when we're done.
Thank you so much. All right. So I believe that concludes our meeting, and we shall see you all next week.
Try your best to be here next week.